Hello there. Welcome in to a Friday edition of the show. So glad to have you, whether you're listening on your radio, streaming the show online at extrasports1300.com, or you've downloaded the Extra Sports 1300 app to do your listening. And that app, which is free to download and free to use, is sponsored by Diversus Health, mental health and well-being for all, a veritable cornucopia of sports topics await you. And I'd love to get your thoughts at 719-247-1313. I will give my final thoughts before Sunday's Broncos-Chiefs game, and I certainly welcome yours as well. Couple of keys in that game for Denver. We'll get into it over the course of the program. Dave Toller makes his triumphant return to the program. Air Force hockey, so hot right now. Holy Cross hockey, the team they're playing tonight, equally as hot right now. Be a good one. That's actually, if you're watching on the stream, that's why I'm what I consider to be dolled up, because I'll be on the call alongside Eric Johnson on altitude for that one, if you are so inclined. But let's actually start with hockey and let's talk about the Avs, shall we? It wasn't better from Mackenzie Blackwood. I think that's my biggest takeaway from the evening. Avs still won the game 6-3. I don't know that it should have been that close, but Mackenzie Blackwood still doesn't look great. He looks a little slow to react, is kind of my sense. And it could be speed of thought, it could be of his body, but he just a little slow to get there and make these saves. And the Avs really dominated that hockey game. Buffalo was on the second night of a back-to-back, I think. Like that. And the Avs were playing them like it. The Avs were taking it to Buffalo. If the goaltending would have been a little bit better, that one would have been probably a laugher. But Mackenzie Blackwood's not back yet. He's not. And his head coach doesn't love what he saw either.
I thought it was just okay. Yeah. First one, got to handle it. Ends up at the back of the Knicks. He doesn't handle the rebound, but makes a couple key saves. The save on, I think it was Thompson coming over on the power play off the rush. Is a big-time shooter that can score, gets into a good area of the ice off the rush. It's a big save for us. So still knocking a little bit of the rust off, but he competed. He competed hard, and we didn't do that, But I still think like the best of his play is still to come.
And I would hope so, because the Mackenzie Blackwood that I have seen through 3 games of this season is not a goaltender that you can win a Stanley Cup with. It's just not. He's got to get better. So now you have a little bit of I don't think it's a controversy. Let me just reiterate that. It's not a controversy. This is still Mackenzie Blackwood's job. If they're going to win a Stanley Cup, he's going to be their goalie, all of that stuff. I still believe that. It's been 3 games. I gave Cam Johnson 10, and he was hurt on game 11 with the Denver Nuggets. So Mackenzie Blackwood needs some time. But the fact of the matter is the train has left the station. The Avs are 4 points clear of everybody in the entire league right now. You saw what Winnipeg was able to do last year. Like, don't you want that for the Avs? Don't the Avs want to be in that position? Clearly they do. So what Jared Bednar has, it's not a controversy, but he's got to alter his game plan here because this team is rolling. This team has been beaten once in regulation. They're racking up points. They're separating themselves from everybody in the Central Division. You can't sacrifice that when the season is still what? 2/3, 3/4 of it are still left. Can't mess with the good thing. And that's what Jared Bednar was talking about when he was asked about, how he's going to handle this goaltending situation moving forward.
I hate to sound cruel, but that's a Blackie problem at this point. It's not a problem for me. Like, I have lots of confidence in Blackie, and I know there's lots of minutes between here and the end of the season, right? But Wedge is playing great. So I'm not going to not play Wedge to play Blackie at this point. So those minutes come in practice and hard work. He's been doing that, and he'll get his games. And if we have to alternate him, this become a popular question, but I'm not going to, Wedge is rested and ready to go for Sunday. I'm not going to, not play him because Blackie needs minutes. There's plenty of time to get him the minutes. Right now, we're going to play a rested goalie and, play the goalie that gives us a really good chance.
Now, you could argue the team that they're playing might be a good time to get Mackenzie Blackwood some more work, being the New York Islanders. I know Matthew Schaefer's been really good as a rookie for them, but it's not a good hockey team that Patrick Waugh has. So it would be, if the idea is, hey, let's play Mackenzie Blackwood against the lesser teams in the NHL and get him going, but that's not where Jared Bednar's head's at. I think he's handling this as if Scott Wedgwood is the starter, is the number one goalie. I think that's the way he's handling it until Mackenzie Blackwood shows that dynamic can be flipped. This is what we call a meritocracy. That old adage, you can't lose your job to injury. You can. You absolutely can. Ask Drew Bledsoe and Wally Pipp. It happens. But we are way too early to talk about Mackenzie Blackwood's job being taken. But Jared Bednar is going with the better goaltender and setting his rotation based on that. And then the minute that Mackenzie Blackwood starts to look like the Mackenzie Blackwood they had last season, Jared Bednar will flip it. You remember, this could last all the way to the break. And remember, we have the Olympics. So it's almost like 2 seasons because of how long of a break they'll have. So it's like you accumulate points and you do your thing up until the Olympics, and then you could almost come back with a completely different lineup, game plan, all of that kind of stuff. It's really going to serve as 2 separate seasons. And maybe that's what we're heading for. I mean, we're only in mid-November, so it could change before that. Maybe it's during the holiday break, shorter break. This team's 12-1-5. Don't upset the apple cart. This is a Stanley Cup contending team. Mackenzie Blackwood, you gotta figure it out. That's what Jared Bednar is saying. He believes he can. I believe he can. But it's kind of one of those trust but verify. And for right now, Scott Wedgwood, if you want to call him the number one goaltender, call him the number one goaltender. But once Mackenzie Blackwood is right, he will get his job back. But it's 3 games. I've seen him for 3 games. Doesn't look great, but it's early. Avs, meanwhile, continue to roll. Martin H's 2 goals last night. Nathan MacKinnon. I mean, talk about how dominant the Avs are. Nathan MacKinnon had 1 assist. That was it. Gabe Landeskog got an empty netter, so now we're really putting the Gabriel Landeskog hasn't scored a goal in how long to the side, because he's scored now in back-to-back games, albeit last night was an empty netter. Gavin Brindley, I mean, where's the ceiling on this guy? He scores again last night, playing with that second line in place of Valeri Nichushkin. I thought Sam Girard looked decent in his return. His team's rolling right now. And I was thinking about this. I'll pose the question to you at 719-247-1313. Who's better right now, the Avs or the Nuggets? Who have you been more impressed by? Slightly larger sample size with the Avs. But both teams' best players are playing at an MVP level. You take away some, bounces in overtime in the shootout, which is nonsense. Avs could have 1 loss right now. And for the Nuggets, without Steph Curry going atomic in the opener down the stretch, and a should have been foul call at the end of the Portland game, Nuggets might be undefeated. So, I mean, you're really splitting hairs with this question, but I'm curious your thoughts. Who's been more impressive, the Avs or the Nuggets? I think it's been the Nuggets. I think that's where I would go. And I'm not even really looking at the record because, again, the Avs could be 17-1 at this point, and even if the Nuggets are like 10-11-0, 17-1, 11-0, 6 one way, half dozen the other, really. So I'm not looking at the records. I'm just watching this team and the way that Nikola Jokic is playing, because he's been able to rest. I mean, what Nathan MacKinnon's doing is arguably best player in the league stuff, but with Nikola Jokic, he's doing historical things. So I'd give the nod Jokic over MacKinnon. I think the depth of and maybe it's all expectation, right? I think that the Nuggets have perhaps exceeded my expectation for the way they would look. And with the Avs, I guess they have to a point, but like Gabriel Landeskog didn't score till the other night. Gavin Brindley's been the biggest surprise for me. I look at how the Avs are getting here, and I'm like, I can understand it. I can see it. And maybe that's what it is. That's why the Nuggets are impressing me a little bit more, a wee bit more. But I've been more impressed with the depth of the Nuggets the other night against LA notwithstanding than I have been the depth of the Avs. The best player for the Nuggets has been more impressive than the best player for the Avs. The one place I could say is a bit of a toss-up, I think I would lean Avs. I think Cale Makar's been better than Jamal Murray. But Jamal Murray's been really good. Jamal Murray has been absolutely what he needed to be to start this season. But man, both of these teams are absolute wagons right now. They're not perfect, but there's a whole heck of a lot that's going well, more so than any little things like Mackenzie Blackwood or the power play for the Avs, or with the Nuggets, it being Cam Johnson, I suppose, would be the one thing that you're not overly impressed with. But even then, Cam Johnson is playing elite defense. So I am asking you to split hairs, because that's what I was doing last night. I was splitting hairs trying to decide who's been more impressive. I'll go Nuggets. You can tell me at 719-247-1313. One team that has, gosh, rarely if ever, been the right answer to the question I just asked. Who's impressed you most? Would be the Colorado Rockies, of course. The new man in charge of saving the franchise spoke, and you will hear from Paul D. Podesta next on Extra Sports 1300. With 83% of your vote, Ellie Wagner of Evangel Christian Academy Volleyball is our Extra Sports 1300 Athlete of the Week. There's a runaway for Ellie. So congratulations to her. Thanks to you for voting. The Eagles today saw their season come to an end at state. So didn't think today would be the right day to have Ellie on, as I'm sure it's a tough one for the Eagles, but what a season they had. Congratulations to them on that, and we'll be reaching out to try and get Ellie on the show and clue you in as to why she was such a deserving nominee and now winner of our Extra Sports Athlete of the Week, sponsored by Blackjack Pizza and Salads. That means we're taking nominations. Well, we take nominations all the time, but there's no more voting going on until Monday. So go to extrasports1300.com, fill out the nomination form, and we'll have some new nominees come Monday. You know this if you have followed the Colorado Rockies for the entirety of their existence. It is a bit dangerous to set expectations too high on this team. And I think that's the way that I choose to go into this hiring of Paul DePodesta. But Walker Monfort, son of Dick Monfort, the guy that seems to be in charge, well, half in charge. Paul DePodesta made it very clear yesterday that when it comes to baseball, he's in charge. But Walker Monfort is the one that has his dad's ear and runs the pocketbook. I guess that's the way I would put it when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. He's not helping this situation in terms of trying to keep expectations low. This was Walker Monfort introducing Paul DePodesta as the newest head of baseball ops for the Colorado Rockies.
When this process began just over a month ago, someone asked me what we're looking for in this role. Coming off of the difficult season, my answer was simple. We needed someone who could transcend, someone who could take us beyond where we are today and help us reach new heights as an organization.
Transcend? By the way, does that qualify as a simple answer? I have a simple answer for that. I just want him to be transcendent. Visionary was also thrown out at times yesterday. Those are some big words being thrown around 20th and Blake. But okay, transcendent. So Paul DePodesta famously played kind of by Jonah Hill in Moneyball. Talked about making Coors Field not a home disadvantage, but a home advantage.
Like this has a chance to be, I think, the best home field advantage in all of baseball. So that's our goal, and that's what we want. I'm not going to get into the details of exactly how we plan on doing that, but that's certainly the goal here. I see it as a potentially huge advantage.
You know what that reminded me of, that line in there? Remember the Office episode when they're interviewing the search committee and Will Arnett is interviewing with Jim and Toby and Gabe? And he says, I have essentially a 3-step program that could double your profits. And then there's just awkward silence. And then Jim and Toby are like, okay, what is it? And he's like, I'm not going to tell you my plan. I have a plan. Don't you want a plan? You're in paper, aren't you? I may or may not have watched that episode last night. That's what Paul DePodesta sounds like. I have a 3-step program to effectively turn Coors Field into the biggest home field advantage in all of sport. Okay? I wish somebody would have followed up by saying, can you give us one part of the plan, one step of the plan? Can you give us a little hint? A little morsel that we can digest here? To have some belief that you actually know of what you speak? Nope. Can't tell us. Because of course it would, if he put out any idea like, hey, we want to go back to the Blake Street Bombers. Right? We just want to match. That's what we're doing. Well, guess what happens? Every other team in the league will protect their power hitters, immediately signing them to long-term extensions. They're like, we can't let the Rockies get their hands on our power hitters. The entire league will collude against the Colorado Rockies to make sure they get no power hitters because of how fearful they are that this sleeping giant will awaken. Same thing goes if he's like, I'd like good pitchers. Nope, not getting them. Dodgers, you can't have Yamamoto. Rockies, sorry. Like, what would be the harm? No, Paul DePodesta is at least a little aware of the plight of this organization over the years. He talked about a ton being in the building for game 163. He was in this division. Like, he understands what the Rockies have been through. You don't want to give a little something? Can it just be, do you want a power hitting team or do you want a contact team? Do you like strikeout pitchers or do you like ground ball pitchers? Do you like speed in the outfield? Nope. He's holding the cards close to the vest. He has a plan, though. He's not going to tell us what it is. So I guess we just have to sit and wait and see what he does. His first moves, or at least the first moves that have happened under his watch, they basically cleaned house in the minor leagues, especially on the pitching side of things. So clearly, Paul DePodesta recognizes that what the Rockies have been doing for 30 years when it comes to developing pitchers is wrong. And in that way, we're actually off to a really good start. Because the first thing that should happen is that the house should be cleaned. None of it's working. Now, the roster's a little different, right? But in terms of the coaching staff, in terms of just the ideas that have permeated throughout that organization for 30 years, they need to be purged. So I would actually say this is a pretty good first day on the job for Paul DePodesta, with all due respect to those who saw their contracts terminated. Never like to see that, but clearly it needed to happen. So now we wait and see really when he gets to the roster building part of this to see what his ideas are. But the first part, another line from that episode of The Office, Pam saying we need a new manager. Rockies need a manager. Will it be Warren Schaefer or will it be someone else? Got a lot of work to do. Oh, Paul DePodesta has a lot of work to do, before he even gets to the real work of improving the Colorado Rockies. But that's what he's being brought in to do. Let's not forget that there will eventually be a general manager under him. What he is in charge of, well, I'll let him tell you what it is that he is truly in charge of with the Colorado Rockies.
I think what we're actually trying to achieve is this like fundamental change of state, right, within the organization. And that's both the talent on the field. It's also the culture in the clubhouse, the culture in the building.
Which would speak to the moves that were made today by the organization. In order to change the culture, a lot of people who were responsible for the previous culture need to be ousted. But like, I'm genuinely intrigued. Like, I don't know if this is all going to work, but I will tell you this, right? You can make your jokes about him running the Cleveland Browns and all of that kind of stuff. Can you imagine the Rockies with a better baseball mind than Paul D. Podesta's? Like, legitimately, understanding where they are right now. I mean, you can at least give this to the Monforts. This is probably the best they could have done. And this is a guy that was a part of a baseball revolution. So if this guy can't do it, no one can. I don't know how he's going to do it. He won't tell you how he's going to do it. But Paul, he's our man. If he can't do it, nobody's going to be able to. 719-24-7-1313. Dave Toller makes his triumphant return to the program. Air Force and Holy Cross, big-time matchup on the ice tonight. Tonight at Cadet Ice Arena, it is the unstoppable force versus the immovable object. As Dominic Wasik, Air Force goalie, takes on the Holy Cross Crusaders. Joining me now to discuss is the man that will be on the call alongside Jay Ritchie tonight at 7 o'clock or just after that. He is Dave Toller. Tolles, good to have you.
It's great to be on, Ryan.
I guess I may be shortchanging Air Force a little bit because they've been pretty hot as of right now. What's been the difference the last couple of weeks, do you think?
The number one thing for Air Force is goaltending. I mean, and you mentioned him, Dominic Wasik has really taken a stranglehold on that position. You know, last year we lost a 3-year starter in Guy Blessing. He graduated, and all the other goalies, there were 5 of them on the roster. Coming into this season, they had a combined 1 start. So we were extremely inexperienced at that position, and it certainly showed early on. But boy, the last 5 games, Wasik has come in. He hadn't played a single minute in goal his first 2 years. He's a junior, and he's been playing great, and that's the biggest reason why we've won 4 in a row now.
I mean, is it just as simple as reps? I mean, with him, is that really what it's just added up to recently?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. And then I think that, you know, with any athlete, but certainly that position, the confidence. And, you know, he played a couple of games early on when, you know, that St. Thomas game, the RIT game, when they got out of hand. He came in relief, but that's a little different. And then, you know, he came on in the first game at RIT in relief. He started the second game, and you know, sometimes it is just a mindset that, hey, if you know you're the guy, maybe you prepare differently, whatever that might be. And he played pretty well in game 2 at RIT. So because of that, he got the next start, which was Brown. And in his second career start, he gets his first career shutout. And from then on, we've won 4 in a row. And I think that's a lot of it. And then, you know, we're scoring a little bit more too, which always helps.
It does, and how much he had 1 assist this weekend, but again, you gotta give a guy some time to get back worked in. But what does Mason McCormick add to this team that maybe they had not had previously this season?
Yeah, his return is massive in so many ways. He's a two-way player. He does give you some offense, but he's not going to put up you know, gigantic all-conference type of offensive numbers, but he's great defensively. He's great on the face-off dot. He's our team captain, and just having his presence back in there makes a big difference. The offense will come, but just having him back in there, he's a physical player. He can just do a little bit of everything, and, you know, bringing him back in, it pushes all those centers back down, you know, so maybe a guy that you didn't think would be in the lineup, he was in the lineup when McCormick was out, but now you get your senior captain back, you know, and you get a little bit older, a little bit deeper down the middle.
How pleasantly surprised are you with the way that Nick Sajovic has played?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you could see it starting last year. The last 10 games, that line of all the sophomores really clicked together, and they played together every game. And yeah, Nick centers that top line. I mean, the one surprising thing is on the faceoff dot. I mean, we lost Clayton Cosentino, who led the nation in faceoff wins the last 2 years, and he's gone now. And you bring in Nick Sajovic. He's a sophomore. He's centering that top line, so he's taking the majority of the draws. He's taking them on the power play, the penalty kill, everything, and he's up over 60%. He's in the top 5 in the country in faceoff wins and percentage. So, you know, we're really not missing a beat having him come in and taking those draws, and also just being a playmaker on that top line too.
And that's one of the sneaky fun things to watch or listen for tonight, as it were, because you have the best faceoff man in the conference against the second best faceoff man in the conference. As we pivot over to Holy Cross, talking with Dave Toller, Jack Stockfish, is he the best player in this conference?
He very well could be. I mean, he is really good, and he hurt us last year. He had 2 goals, 2 assists in that series out here last season. And he's a different player than Sajovic. Sajovic's a little guy, stockfish, about 6'4" and 220, and he can really score. He was recently named to the U.S. Select Team, one of the top college players in the country. He was the preseason player of the year. So yeah, he's legit, and he's just one of several good players that Holy Cross has. I mean, he's really good, but this is a very deep and very solid Crusader team.
And their record reflects that. I guess I have to ask the question, who did Holy Cross schedule in the non-conference? Because the non-conference was a little rough for the Crusaders, and now they've hit conference play and they are rolling.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, they're unbeaten in their last 5 games. They're in first place in Atlantic hockey, but they have played a good schedule out of conference. They played 2 against Maine. They were in the top 10 in the country. They played 1 against Quinnipiac, who was number 6 in the country. So they've played a good non-conference schedule. And sometimes when you do that, that really prepares you for conference play, and maybe that did. I know Air Force does that a pretty good bit too, with CC and Denver, and St. Thomas is a team that's been in and out of the rankings a little bit, and you get to see that level of competition, and you figure out right away, either we're right there with them or we have some work to do. But yeah, Holy Cross came out of that non-conference, jumped into league play, and man, they've been really good. They're 5-1-1 in the conference. Their only loss was 1 game at Army.
Difference in tonight's game will be what, do you think? Or it has to be what?
Yeah, I think it's going to be right from the very beginning, who's more ready to play. And you always look at those stats about, scoring first. You hear in hockey, that's such a big deal. Air Force, 3 of the 5 wins is when Air Force has scored first. For Holy Cross, in all 5 of their wins, they've scored first. So I think just getting off to a good start, and maybe it's not scoring a goal, maybe it's on that first shift, it's delivering a big hit, it's doing something, and just getting out of the gates really good. Because there's been several games this year, Air Force has gotten off to a slow start, and it's really bit them as the game's gone on. So I think that's the biggest thing tonight, is we'll watch from that opening face-off and find out who's ready to play from that first puck drop.
Well, the boys are due against this team. I can say that without equivocation. It's been a bit since they've knocked off Holy Cross. Tonight would be a great night to do it. And you can hear Dave Toller alongside Jay Ritchie coming up our coverage starting at 6:30. Tolls, appreciate it. I'll see you in a little bit, buddy.
Sounds great, Ryan. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. That's Dave Toller back on the broadcast tonight. They couldn't get him back on the broadcast fast enough after. Like, I'll point to Mason McCormick as well, who's helping Jay out on the road. It's him and I, the 2 of us, that they couldn't wait to. Rumor has it the government reopened just to make sure that Dave Toller could get back on the hockey broadcast. But great to hear from Tolls. Great to have him back on the call, and I'm not going to be hurting for something to do tonight because I'll be on the television side. Eric Johnson, yes, of Avs fame, will be on the call with me on Altitude 2, I believe, this evening. One of the 2 altitudes. So, either way, no reason to miss the game tonight between Air Force and Holy Cross. Let's get into some text messages. 719-247-1313. I was very curious to see what you thought about this whole thing with Paul DePodesta taking over as the president of baseball ops, and where your head was at on all of this. I'm not surprised to see that nobody's getting carried away by this. From the 303, he's going to remove the humidifier. Well, we'll see. That would be a move. And that's what I'm wondering. Right? What does he think? the key to winning at altitude is. Because when it comes to the offense, there are two schools of thought. Right? One is you just bludgeon teams with the power bats and hit a ton of home runs. Bridich came in, was like, put up a wall, make it harder for teams to hit home runs. And then kind of the thought moved to, well, now you got to have contact guys. And there were some people that thought that before, like home runs are going to happen. Get contact guys, exploit the gaps in left and right center field, and just create chaos on the base paths, especially. And that's kind of where I'm leaning. Like from an entertainment standpoint, like I get it. You know, if the Blake Street Bombers reemerge, that'd be a lot of fun. That'd be worth the price of admission. But if the goal here is to actually win in any form or fashion, get to the postseason, win a division, win a World Series, depending on what you think is actually possible, having a winning record, let's start there. Like, I don't know, because those power bats, when they go on the road, here's the other argument for the contact hitters, that the power hitters have a more difficult time away from Coors Field because already they're taking huge cuts. And now they're dealing with pitches that actually move on the road. So I'm kind of in the camp of, if there is a way to go about this that can actually bring success to the Colorado Rockies, I think it's, especially now with the rule changes with the bases that have promoted more stealing. I think what I want to see at Coors Field is just chaos. And I guess home runs can be chaos, but I want like perpetual motion around the base paths. I want just guy hit here, guy steals second, guy goes first to third. I want all of that stuff going on. It's kind of easy to, especially in today's day and age, to shake off a home run. Home run. All right, moving on. But if you constantly have traffic on the base paths, and the rules have changed in Major League Baseball to promote stealing bases, I think that's where I am. But nobody truly knows. And that's what intrigues Paul DePodesta, which one thing I have been able to take away in listening to him speak, he has a very high opinion of what he can do. But the issue is nobody has been able to consistently field a team that is built one way. Let's see someone set a plan and stick to it. I mean, that's the first step here. You don't even know where to start. I don't know if Paul DePodesta knows where to start, to be honest with you. But we don't know where to start. Everything is broken. What do you fix? How do you fix it? I do think the first few moves that he makes will give you an idea. But I think that the Rockies, and here's one thing, whether you're in the camp of them hitting a ton of bombs or, exploiting the gaps in left center and right center field and all of that kind of stuff. I don't want to hear anything about balance in the lineup. I want the Rockies to just straight lean into a direction. I either want mashers 1 through 9, or I want guys that will create contact and run around the bases 1 through 9. And we got to have some power here. No, lean into one direction and go with it. This from the 719. Hey, Kaufman, you can't polish a turd. The Rocks aren't getting a transcendental change. This D. Podesta guy is just going to shuffle the deck and fill jerseys. But then there's this, because you're not wrong, but I would chase it with this text coming in from the 719. Honestly, I think anyone is better than whoever they had in-house. I think that can Paul D. Podesta figure out, solve sports' greatest puzzle? That's what this is. It's the greatest puzzle in sports. No one's been able to figure it out. Can he do that? Feels like a tall task. I'll at least say that. However, it does feel like a competent person is going to be leading the baseball operation. I do feel that way. Is Paul D. Podesta a little grandiose with his thought about himself or what he can do in Denver? Probably. He probably is. But the guy does have, even though it's been a while, has a track record of making good baseball decisions. And that's what the Rockies need first and foremost. Everything else we'll see. Because even if the Rockies get to a decent place where they're a decent baseball team, now you have the next challenge of you got basically 3 Goliaths in your division. The Padres will spend whatever it takes. The Giants spend a ton of money, and then you have the Dodgers. But that's the next level. That's way down the line. For now, to me, it's just, can they be the best version of themselves? And they do have a guy at the helm who has a history of making good baseball decisions. Can he make enough to save this team? Who the heck knows? But it's somebody certainly more competent than the Rockies have had in a very, very long time. 719-24-7-1313. Coming up next, the keys to Broncos Chiefs. Welcome in hour 2 on this Friday. Appreciate you watching the show as you tend to do on our social media platforms, whether it be YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. The handle is the same in all of those places at XTRA Sports 1300. While you're there, like, subscribe, follow, leave a comment. Even if it's kind of mean-spirited, I can take it. I just crave the human interaction, which is a weird thing to say about social media because it's kind of a step removed from human interaction. But it's the year 2025. We take what we can get. 719-247-1313 is the number if you want to call or text into the show. Sunday. Broncos and Chiefs. Both teams having a little bit of an issue with the run game, or at least the players that are responsible for their run game. You know already that J.K. Dobbins not going to play because of this foot injury, and it may be more severe than just missing Sunday. And then you have Isaiah Pacheco ruled out for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, Sean Payton kind of hinted at the fact that J.K. Dobbins wouldn't play, even though he tries not to let us know any of that kind of information. But when he was talking about R.J. Harvey, kind of hinted at the fact that J.K. Dobbins wouldn't play. But here's Sean Payton on what he thinks of his rookie running back.
Sometimes players are not held back, but when you're watching Pat Bryant grow right in front of our eyes, and you're starting to see that with RJ, and obviously he'll have more opportunities here in this game. So, he's built. When you see his frame, he's built to last, and that's important.
And what Sean Payton is talking about there is when you have a team like the Denver Broncos that have veterans at certain positions, right? More experienced guys at another position. When you're in the business of winning as many games as you can, which the Broncos are, you're going to go with those veterans at the expense, at times, of the development of the younger players. Now, nobody would rather have R.J. Harvey running the football than J.K. Dobbins, given what J.K. Dobbins has done this year. But it seems like there's a belief from Sean Payton that in a world where they weren't able to land J.K. Dobbins, he'd be perfectly fine with R.J. Harvey taking the majority of the carries. And that last part he mentioned there about being built to last, Bo Nix kind of piggybacked off of that in explaining why there is a belief that despite R.J. Harvey stepping into a larger role, that he is ready for it.
Well, it's just you got to rely on what he's done in the past. He was a great runner in college, already had some really good runs this year. And so, honestly, the more carries he gets, probably the better he'll be. We know what he can do out of the backfield, but, we're excited to see him.
And I think they're going to have to be proven right, Sean Payton and Bo Nix. Because I don't see any way that the Denver Broncos win a throwing contest with Patrick Mahomes. Specifically, I don't know how Bo Nix outthrows Patrick Mahomes. That would be playing right into the hands of the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs would love for the Broncos to have a mentality of trying to match them throw for throw. The Broncos can't more than, and we've talked about this over the last few weeks, the identity of this team. It is no more important to stick to that identity than this Sunday for a variety of reasons. One, you're not going to beat Patrick Mahomes in a football throwing contest. Two, when you have players missing that are important to your identity, it's easy to back away from that identity. You got to lean into it. You got to double down on it. Now, I'm not saying that RJ Harvey has to have every carry on Sunday that J.K. Dobbins was going to get. You're getting Marvin Mims back, which is significant. And dare I even utter the phrase, you also have Bo Nix who can run it. I don't think RJ Harvey just gets the workload that J.K. Dobbins was going to get. I think there's some adjustment. But the idea that the Broncos have to stick with their identity from the start. Like, I get the conversation about getting Bo Nix going, but I think him running the ball gets him going. So I think I'm killing two birds with one stone here. It's sticking with the Broncos' identity, which gives them the best chance to win. And it's a good way to get Bo Nix going. And it doesn't have to be designed runs. Just give him the green light to run the ball if he sees fit. Trust him. Don't put this mental lock on him to where, and you saw this in the Houston game time and time again. It's like he gets to the line of scrimmage and it's like a cliff. And he just like stops and like holds up because he doesn't want to cross that threshold because then he's a runner. Let him cross that threshold. Let him run. There's no cliff there. There's green grass. Green grass that Bo Nix can navigate quite well. But I just don't, I don't see the utility in trying to get Bo Nix a rhythm throwing the football with the screens. Right? I don't think that Bo Nix and the previous month is my evidence to support my claim. I just don't think there's going to be a point in this game where you can actually believe that Bo Nix will outplay Patrick Mahomes. So I think that the Broncos, the best thing they can do is stick to their identity. And that is run the football. Because I know it's not Benito and Cooper, but the Chiefs have one of the better pass rushes in the NFL. And all the noise right now about Chris Jones and how bad of a season he has, I think the Broncos will see the best version of Chris Jones that has existed this year. I think he is unbelievably motivated. Run the football. Even if it's not giving RJ Harvey all of J.K. Dobbins' carries, you got to give him a chance. You just have to. It's the situation you have found yourself in. If you try to morph and try to be as creative as Andy Reid, I know Sean Payton is creative, but he's not more creative than Andy Reid, and he doesn't have the tools that Andy Reid has at his disposal. I think the best thing that the Broncos can do in their path to victory is what they have been doing. Now, they need to look better quarters 1 through 3, but what inevitably happens when the Broncos get going? They run the football. I think they need to be the counter. They need to be the polar opposite of the Kansas City Chiefs offensively. The Chiefs are going to be trying to throw the ball downfield. They're going to be razzle-dazzle. They're going to be creative. The Denver Broncos need to be the antithesis of that. They need to punch the Chiefs in the mouth with the run game. And it's going to be more difficult to do. It's going to be more difficult for Champagne to stick with it if RJ Harvey struggles early. But that's their path to winning. Now, the impact of Isaiah Pacheco is not as great on Kansas City as losing J.K. Dobbins is to the Denver Broncos. And I'm not saying that Kareem Hunt is an adequate replacement. In fact, I would rather have RJ Harvey than Kareem Hunt. I would. So the Broncos got the better fill-in, but Kareem Hunt's not the replacement for Isaiah Pacheco. Patrick Mahomes is. Patrick Mahomes has been their leading rusher for the vast majority of this season. Which obviously begs the question, if Andy Reid is somewhat okay with Patrick Mahomes running around and trying to get first downs with his legs, why isn't Champagne letting Bo Nix do that? Discuss amongst yourselves. But Patrick Mahomes is their best runner, not Isaiah Pacheco. But I think there's less hope that Kansas City can get their traditional run game going without Isaiah Pacheco. Because Kareem Hunt's basically a fullback. I mean, that's the way they use him. He's a fullback, which is going to be important around the goal line, right? Because the Chiefs, much to my chagrin, like to run Kareem Hunt on the goal line. And I saw that the Broncos a couple weeks ago stop Houston multiple times right on the goal line, and I think they have all the personnel necessary to stop Kareem Hunt. So I guess if I were talking to the Chiefs, I would tell them the same thing that I'm telling the Denver Broncos. Be who you are. You're not the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Mike Allstott. You're not the Eagles with the tush push. Around the goal line, you're a circus act. You do the ring around the rosy. You do these, little flips to, Xavier Worthy coming across the formation. You're lining up Travis Kelce in the Wildcat, and he's throwing it. Like, that's who you are in the red zone. You're not a power football team. Don't do that. And don't do that against Denver. I want to see the stark contrast. I want to see the free-flowing offense, the creativity from the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't want to see them 3 yards in a cloud of dust. But for the Denver Broncos, I think they should be 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Well, maybe 4. Just doing the math, they would, if they got 4 on first down, 4 on second down, then they could be 3 yards. I think this game is, even for both sides, the most important thing is being who you are and what you are best at. This is not the time to give Bo Nix a chance to silence his critics. Do that another week. And this is not the week in a must-win game for the Kansas City Chiefs to be going away with what they do best. But Mahomes running the ball is their biggest running threat. And until Sean Payton lets Bo Nix run, the Broncos' best running threat is hurt. Vance Joseph talked about something yesterday that I thought he put it in a really succinct way that I liked, with Patrick Mahomes. You got to get him in obvious passing downs. Because, yeah, we remember Patrick Mahomes, gaining 20 yards on key third down plays. But for the most part, if you put Patrick Mahomes in passing downs, you don't have to worry as much about Patrick Mahomes, the runner, because they're going to throw it. And then that's when Benito and Cooper can pin their ears back and get after him. The obvious passing downs being what? Third and long. So if the Broncos can keep Mahomes in the pocket, I don't think they'll have much problem stopping the traditional run game of the Kansas City Chiefs. But if they can keep Mahomes in the pocket and get the Chiefs into third and long, they're a lot like every other team. And that's what Vance Joseph was trying to say. Like, in passing downs, they're going to throw it. You can't lose your gap integrity. You can't let Patrick Mahomes get out of the pocket. Yes, but they're going to be looking to throw. But identities. Chiefs need to be who they are. And the Broncos need to be who they are when they're at their best. And if we see that, the team that comes out on top, they're worthy of every ounce of respect that they get come Monday. But if one of these two teams go in trying to reinvent the wheel or try to be something that they're not, and then they lose, then you wonder, well, what if they would have stuck to their identity? Take your thoughts. 719-247-1313. Thoughts, predictions, whatever you want. Chiefs, Broncos related. Have more Drive Time Sports after this. I don't know where Brett's getting this idea from, but then again, I don't know where Brett gets a lot of his ideas. Love when Brett texts in, though. I'll say that. Brett says, who's next on the Friday roast of the Denver Broncos? Nikki Glazer? I wish Nikki Glazer was up next on this show. I don't think I'm. What I'm saying is the way that the Broncos can not keep up. That's actually very much the wrong phrase to use. If the Broncos play to their identity, they got a chance to win. They do. I'm not writing the Broncos obituary in the last segment. I'm telling you how they win. If they're going to win, this is what's going to happen. Now, do I believe in Sean Payton's ability to resist the urge with J.K. Dobbins out, with Andy Reid on the other sideline, with Patrick Mahomes on the field? Do I trust Sean Payton to resist the urge to try and showcase his QB? No, I don't particularly trust him to do that. But if he does, Broncos got a chance. And then the way they and what a way to show that, hey, the way we're doing it works. Right? Running the football, playing defense, even in today's NFL, it can work. What a resounding endorsement of the way that the Broncos play when they're right, when they're doing what they should be doing, than to beat Kansas City, the team that is now installed as the favorite to win the Super Bowl in sports books. And the perception out there is, yeah, it's going to be them again coming out of the AFC. And if the Broncos, especially, I mean, no Pat Surtain, no J.K. Dobbins, no Alex Singleton. By the way, man, Alex Singleton is one tough dude. I wish that dude nothing but the best with his diagnosis and everything. What a warrior that dude is. But I mean, if the Broncos can beat Kansas City, that's why I say the perception, there's more to gain from perception for the Denver Broncos than anything else, and confidence. Again, don't forget what it does for the guys in the locker room. If they're able to win the game, then they go, we did this without Pat, we did it without Dobbins, we did it without Singleton. But I'm telling you, the only way that they do that is if what we see in the fourth quarter, which is all bets are off. It's not about regimenting Bo Nix and, got to complete these passes to build up to these passes and eventually we'll go to these. No, it's running the football and letting Bo Nix run and getting him in a rhythm that way. It's not trying to go over the top. Broncos have a path to win this game. Don't misunderstand me. They absolutely have a path to win this game. I think my confidence is more in Kansas City to stick to their identity and do what they do best. Then I trust the Denver Broncos to do that. I'm really talking about offensively. Right, that's what this is. The defense is, you give, maybe it's a push with no Pat Surtain. It's going to be on the offensive side of the football. Whose offense can do better against the opposing defense? Uh, 719-24-7, 1313. This just coming down from the Denver Nuggets. Christian Brown is going to be reevaluated in 6 weeks. 6 weeks. The ankle sprain. Yep. The ankle sprain. I had to do a double. I just did a triple take. 6 weeks. Christian Braun is going to be reevaluated. That's not great. You know, I have to laugh a little bit because the parallels between the Avalanche and the Nuggets are just, they keep popping up. And it's easy to compare the two teams because they play in the same building. But like, Avs are rolling, then this little bit of a speed bump, which is Valeri Nichushkin's out now. It could be 6 weeks before he's back. And now the Nuggets have one of their own. I will say there's a pretty easy fix here, in my opinion. We'll see what David Adelman does. I just put Tim Hardaway in there. That's what I do. And just put Tim Hardaway, a different player than Christian Braun. I will say that. And then the other thing is what's Cam Johnson's situation? Because if Christian Braun and Cam Johnson are hurt, now you're talking about the two guys that cut to the basket the most are out. Maybe then you would probably rely on Aaron Gordon more in that dunker spot. More Jamal Murray getting downhill and getting to the rim, I think. So there will be some adjustments, but from a personnel standpoint, I do think I put Tim Hardaway in there. I mean, they could go Bruce Brown. I mean, this is the different world that the Nuggets are living in right now. They have options from their bench unit to replace somebody in their starting lineup. I don't think I've said that about this team in a while. But I think Tim Hardaway is the most logical replacement. You keep Bruce Brown because of his ball handling skills to be able to lead the second unit. I know they're going to stagger Murray, but I just think Peyton Watson would be too different of a player to put in there. Julian Strother, I mean, maybe. But I think and I'll take the Avalanche. I'll do the Avs comparison again. Avs just elevated Gavin Brindley right to the second line. So I just move everybody. I move Tim Hardaway up, and that's going to allow Julian Strother to get more run, but with the second unit. That's what I would do if I'm David Adelman. I think I would be more concerned if Cam Johnson was out for a long time than Christian Braun. Because one, I think Cam Johnson's a better player. But two, Cam Johnson needs reps. Cam Johnson needs to keep working with this team. Christian Braun, when he comes back, he'll be all right. He'll fit in well. We think Cam Johnson will fit in well. Defensively, he's fit in great. But I want Cam Johnson to get as many reps as possible. Because they're going to need him to win a title for sure. With Christian Braun, there's so much, institutional knowledge with him. Obviously, it's difficult for him to be out for that long, but the Nuggets have options. Thank you, Ben Tenzer and John Wallace. And when you rank the most catastrophic long-term injuries Christian Brown, with all due respect, is probably at least fifth, maybe sixth. I really don't think that the Nuggets can deal with Jonas Valanciunas being out. But still not great for a team that's absolutely rolling right now. You want them to stay healthy and keep it going. But Christian Brown going to miss going to be reevaluated in 6 weeks with this high ankle sprain. And that's the key. High ankle. High ankle, not good. If you follow sports at all, you know that. 719-247-1313. Would you stick Tim Hardaway in the starting five for the Denver Nuggets, or would you get a little bit more creative if you are David Adelman? Take a break and come back. Somebody, this does exist. I probably don't utilize it as much as I should in the year 2025. What does AI say about how to fix the Colorado Rockies? Maybe making Paul DePodesta's job that much easier? Get to that next. Want to put this on your calendar. Let's take a turkey to work day. Perhaps you've heard of it. It's November 21st. And what we are doing is partnering with Care and Share Food Bank of Southern Colorado. Obviously, food insecurity has become a big topic of conversation, as it should be at all times. There are constantly people in need, not just when the government is shut down. But we do this every year with Care and Share Food Bank of Southern Colorado. We urge people to donate. Either they can drop off turkeys for Thanksgiving at any participating King Soopers location in Colorado Springs and Pueblo, or you can simply donate online. You know, food banks have more purchasing power than you and I do when we go to the grocery store. So donating money goes a very long way for them as well. But either way, we're just trying to get people to help out to make sure that everybody can have a great Thanksgiving. So that'll be November 21st. So if you're you got a neighborhood King Soopers location, you could drop a turkey there. You could go in and buy a turkey and drop it off. Our radio crew is going to be out all day at the one on Mark Sheffel and Constitution if you're in that area. But the main thing is just any way you can, if you can, please give for Take a Turkey to Work Day. And Take a Turkey to Work Day, we're very pleased to be also partnering with Bullseye Plumbing, Heating, and Air. They are supporting this event as well, and we certainly do appreciate them doing that. Brett says, is Take a Turkey to Work Day different than Take Your Child to Work Day? It is, although I would say it's better. It's probably better. The turkey is not as needy as the child, but it's the same premise. You got a turkey on your way to work, you got to drop it off. You don't drop your child off. It's different. But it's better. I like this. So and this is another idea Brett brought up when I said AI, and I agree with him. I do not. I think that the Terminator is not a crazy view of our future, and I do not want to enable it any more than I already do with my reliance on technology. So I'm not, huge into AI, but I do find this AI can produce some entertainment. And somebody asked AI what can be done to fix the Colorado Rockies, a topic we've been bandying about. AI came up with fix the pitching problem. Target ground ball pitchers with heavy sinkers and cutters. Build a bullpen of high movement relievers who keep the ball out of the air. Invest heavily in sports science and conditioning. Altitude destroys recovery. I am of the mind that I would rather just have guys that strike people out. Like, I get it. Ball on the ground is less dangerous than ball in the air at Coors Field. But if I have my druthers, just get a dude that strikes out a bunch of people. But I think with the pitching, it's more like, how do you use pitchers? Like, to me, regardless of what kind of pitcher, like, you can find your archetype. But I think the issue is more how they use them. You gotta pull these guys out of the game early. You gotta let them 1, maybe 2 times around the lineup if they're feeling really good, and you just throw bullpen after like every game should be a bullpen game at Coors. It just should, because you don't want anybody's stuff to dip at all at 20th and Blake, because then it gets killed. Here's the issue with that, which speaks to the entire idea of can you actually win at Coors Field? In order to pull off what I'm saying, whether you stock up on ground ball pitchers or strikeout pitchers, I think both are worth a shot. How many of either have the Rockies had? I think you just got to run through these guys. But if you run through them, what does that mean? You need depth. You need you need a stable of good pitchers, which is a scary thought for an organization that can barely develop any good pitchers. But that's what you have to do, and you have to cycle through them quickly. You got to make sure that they have their best stuff at all times. And the minute they don't, got to get them out of there. It makes it very difficult, which is the entire premise here. It's difficult to pitch at Coors Field. But that's the goal. Here's the next one. Develop hitters who understand Coors and road games. This is where AI agrees with me. Build a hitting philosophy centered on contact, gap power, and plate discipline. If we're just trying to create a more entertaining product at 20th and Blake, then just go the Blake Street Bombers. Right? And maybe in this first year, because I do think drafting and developing has to be a core tenet of this organization. They're just not going to attract free agents, and they're just not going to hit enough to be able to parlay multiple prospects into an impact player. They're just not going to be able to do that. So draft and develop. So if the first couple of years you just want to go Blake Street Bombers and the bigger vision is what you're doing at the minor league level, I'm cool with that. You just want to make the Rockies watchable for a year or two, be my guest. And look, Charlie Condon, one of their top prospects, fits right into that. Right? That dude's going to mash. So if the Rockies want to make moves this offseason in terms of the veterans, because they're going to have to do both. But if they want to target power hitters on the veteran market this year, just to get people feeling good about the Rockies because they're entertained by what they see, I'm fine with that, where the bigger picture is actually playing out at the minor league level. But ultimately, you need to be the team that's going to have Condon and Holiday and Tapia, Tovar. It's contact. If they're ever going to win, that's the kind of lineup they have to throw out. AI and I agree on that. Stop overpaying veterans. Absolutely. Stop overpaying for hitters. That should be something that they can develop just fine. And then actually use analytics. So sometimes AI, not that useful. I don't think we've perfected that technology yet. And I find it like slightly more reliable than Wikipedia in the early days. But I think AI has some good points. We'll see if Paul D. Podesta agrees with the robots. One other thing I wanted to play from that Rockies press conference. This was Dick Monfort, because he was up there on the is it a dais? Is that what we call it? Up there with his son Walker, who is more in control of the organization, I think, than Dick is these days. And then it was up there with Paul D. Podesta as well. Here was Dick Monfort yesterday.
I'm not as bad as anyone thinks I am. I do care. I think that's where it sort of gets foggy. I care about, winning. I care about our players. I care about our, the entire staff that work here. They work extremely hard. And so I defend them and I support them. But really it's Paul's job. It's Walker's job. And I'm there to support them. And like I tell people, I'm the overhead around here.
And there's plenty to criticize about this organization. The two things that I think they have to be off the table because they've just been proven to be wrong. The idea that they don't spend money is wrong. They spend money. The problem is they spend it wrong. They spend it stupidly. They paid Chris Bryant. They paid Ian Desmond. They paid Mike Hampton. They paid Denny Nagel. They paid the Super Bowl pen. They've paid a premium. They've spent money. That's not the issue here. It never has been. And there's also, you can't say that Dick Monfort doesn't want to win. He wants to win. The problem is he doesn't know how. So that's why yesterday felt significant. Because it does feel like he's in part, or at least more than he ever has, taken a step back. And what maybe he's realized, look at the other owners in Colorado sports. Look at Stan Kroenke. Look at Greg Penner. And I say this all the time about owners. The best owners hire good people, and they're there if you need a check written. And that's it. They're not doing interviews post-game like Jerry Jones. They're not also the general manager like Jerry Jones. They hire smart people. They get out of the way unless it requires them to write a paycheck, and then absolutely. That's what Greg Penner has done from the minute he arrived in Denver. Not a guy that is a ham for the limelight. He'll just resod the field every 3 games or so. He'll build a new facility. They'll build a new stadium. He'll write out bonus checks so the Broncos don't have to commit as much cap money, especially right now with them still dealing with the Russell Wilson dead cap money. That's why Greg Penner's been a very good owner. Hired Sean Payton and writes checks. Stan Kroenke, same way. Once they found Tim Connolly, once they found Joe Sakic, Kroenke's got out of the way. And through that, you notice that they get credit. Like the Broncos media fawns over Greg Penner. They love Greg Penner. You get credit when your team wins, naturally. If your team wins a title, you're handed the trophy first. So if this is about Dick Monfort wanting to make sure that the Rockies win, but the Rockies win and he is a reason why, that happens anyway. So maybe seeing what's going on in the city and then seeing what's going on, this is Dick Monfort going, I got to take a step back. Now, he is handing it over to his son. And I'm not a big fan of scions in big business. But if the patriarch of the company or of the family is not great at what he does, maybe the apple falling far from the tree is a good thing. Maybe Walker Monfort has observed and seen and knows what needs to be done. That's what hiring Paul DePodesta looks like. Hiring a competent baseball person to oversee the operations. There's no guarantee of success here. But even yesterday, even this hiring is progress, is different than what we have seen with the Colorado Rockies. Don't get your hopes up. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying seems like some lessons are being learned. We'll see where that gets them. That is it for the show. I got to head up to Cadet Ice Arena. Love for you to join Eric Johnson and myself for the hockey broadcast on Altitude. We'll also have the game here if you so choose. I got, busy weekend. I got the men's and women's Air Force basketball games on this station tomorrow. So probably be talking to you before Monday, but you know what Monday is going to be about. Broncos Chiefs. Enjoy it. And we'll talk Monday.